Hi, my name is Alicia and I'm here to help you improve your Portuguese skills. This is the definite guide to making small talk in Portuguese, chatting with people in Portuguese. So before we start, let's make a small introduction. You will learn in this guide for English speakers how to introduce yourself in Portuguese, how to make small talk in Portuguese, how to ask personal questions in Portuguese, how to talk about likes and dislikes and hobbies in Portuguese, and also you will learn some Portuguese filler words. So everything that you need to know to chat with people. You do not need to have knowledge of the language for this guide, but even if you do speak some Portuguese, the information will be helpful. Some expressions have the variation of você, which is informal, and o senhor, a senhora, which is formal in Brazil. This is indicated with the slash. And I must stress that I am teaching you Brazilian Portuguese because, well, I come from Brazil. But what you learn in the videos of my channel will be helpful when you talk to any Portuguese native speaker, okay? Even though my pronunciation is the Brazilian one, you learn what you learn here to talk with any native Portuguese speaker, okay? But pay attention that in Brazil, we use você when we are being informal and o senhor, a senhora when we are being formal, okay? In Portugal, it's a little different, but we learn Brazilian Portuguese. And you also have a vocabulary list and cheat sheet, exercises with answers, MP3, and other free materials to practice. Everything is for you for download in the video description below. And now we are set, we can begin with como você se chama. And this is how you ask in Portuguese, what is your name? Como você se chama? You may already know these basics of Portuguese, but I advise you to watch the video even if you already know the expressions because many things will be new for you, I promise, okay? So let's begin with the question, como você se chama? And this is você. As you know, você is informal in Brazil. And if you are in a formal situation, if you are talking to a man, you will ask, como o senhor se chama? And if you're talking to a woman in a formal situation, you will ask, como a senhora se chama? And translating it to English, it will be, what's your name? Okay? But in Portuguese, you have you as informal, você in Brazil. And you as formal, o senhor, a senhora, also in Brazil. Okay? But, well, both are correct. Normally in Brazil, we tend to use você when talking to anyone. People that you know, people that you do not know, everyone is você. In Brazil, we use o senhor, a senhora when the situation is really formal or when you're talking to an elderly person, generally, okay? Well, moving forward, let's answer this question. What's your name? I answer with eu me chamo, and then I say my name. Eu me chamo Alicia. Okay, and this has no exact translation in English. What you're saying is people call me Alicia, okay, but you wouldn't say that normally in English. But, well, eu me chamo Alicia, and this is the way of introducing yourself. You can also say, o meu nome é Alicia. My name is Alicia. Just the same as in English. And a third possibility to answer what is your name is to say, eu sou o if you are a man. And eu sou a if you are a woman. Okay? So let's take, for example, the name João, which is John in Portuguese. João would introduce himself by saying, eu sou o João. And Maria in Portuguese will say, eu sou a Maria when she introduces herself. Okay, so pay attention that you're going to use o if you are a man right before your name and a if you are a woman also right before your name. In my case, I say, eu sou a Alicia. And you can also introduce someone. And if you are introducing João, you will say, eu lhe apresento o João. And if you're introducing Maria, you say, eu lhe apresento a Maria. So do not forget o before the name of a man, a before the name of a woman. And you can, well, keep it a little simple by saying, este é o João, when introducing João. And esta é a Maria, when introducing Maria. Okay, so pay attention to the difference. Este é o, esta é a. Okay? Well, in English, you wouldn't make a difference. You say this is and then the name of the person. But in Portuguese, you have to pay attention to these details. And if you meet someone for the first time, you say muito prazer. Nice to meet you. Muito prazer. And to say likewise, you say in Portuguese igualmente. Igualmente is a very general word. You can say meaning you too, okay, for instance. So igualmente is a generic word to say, well, I feel the same thing. And if you want to be more specific, when someone says muito prazer, you can reply by saying o prazer é todo meu. The meaning is the pleasure is all mine. So it's my pleasure. Okay? And o prazer é todo meu, it's only used in this situation. Someone says muito prazer, nice to meet you, and you react by saying o prazer é todo meu. The pleasure is mine. Okay? Well, here you have all these phrases with the translation. You can pause the video and read them, or you can keep on watching because you can download the material and work with it at your own pace. So let's learn the question, como vai? How are you? And I have already a video where I teach you ways to greet and to ask how are you doing in Portuguese. You'll find it in the video descriptions. Here you're going to see some expressions that you can use when someone asks you how are you, but not all of them. Okay, this is just a short introduction to this question. So you can say when you meet a person that you haven't seen in a while, que alegria ver você aqui. This means I'm happy to see you here. So it's very polite, and you're using você because it's a person that you already know, so you address this person in Brazil by saying você. And you can say tanto tempo sem te ver. The same thing. How long? It's been a long time since we haven't seen each other. What you're saying here is more or less the same thing. Tanto tempo sem te ver. Long time no see. The way of saying that in Brazil. And you can say o que há de novo? And this is the way of asking what's new. O que há de novo? And you can also ask about a third person. Você sabe alguma coisa sobre o João? Do you know anything about João? Because we both know him and I haven't seen him for a while, so I ask you if you know something about him. And you can also ask, você sabe alguma coisa sobre a Maria? The same thing. Okay, I'm asking, do you know, have you heard news about Maria? And you have como vai a família? Como vai is a very generic way of saying how are you doing? Como vai? But if you ask como vai a família, you're asking specifically how is your family doing? And this is not well considered intrusive, okay? If you ask a person that you know how is the family doing, it's considered politeness, okay? So you're not trying to gossip. You're just showing interest, and the person will answer whatever he or she wants. Normally, the person will say bem, fine, okay? Como vai a família is very polite, and you can ask it, how is your family doing, to, well, any person that you know already a little bit. And if you ask como vai o trabalho, you're asking how are things at work. And you may ask an acquaintance, how is work? But if you're at a party or a social gathering, it's a topic that people in Brazil, they do not tend to talk about it because it's a little boring. If you are at a party, you're trying to, well, have fun, and talking about work may not be fun for some people. So you can ask about how are things at work, como vai o trabalho, but Brazilians sometimes do not want to talk about the job when they are, well, having fun, okay? Then you can also ask, como foi o seu dia? This is a very simple and sweet way of caring about someone, asking, how was your day? Instead of asking, how are you? You can be, well, a little more friendly by saying, how was your day? Como foi o seu dia? And to answer, you may say, normal. So it was like any other day. But you can answer, tranquilo. Okay, it was quiet, but in a pleasant way. And you can also say, estressante. So it was stressful. You have many ways of answering the question, but these are ways that people normally use. And you may also ask, o que você fez hoje? What did you do today? The same thing. You care about the person and you want the person to share with you how was his or her day. So the answer might be, eu trabalhei. What did I do? I worked. Eu trabalhei. Or eu descansei. I rested. Or even, eu não fiz nada. I didn't do anything. Okay? So, as I said, you have many other ways of saying what did you do on your day, whatever you did. But these are ways, very simple ways of answering this question. And here you have all these expressions for you. And now let's learn how to get to know another person. Se conhecer, getting to know each other. You may want to ask, de onde você é? And this is the question, where are you from? If you are being very formal, keeping a social distancing, you will ask, de onde o senhor, a senhora, é? But the question is the same, where are you from? And you can say, eu sou de, and then you name the city that you come from. Why only the city? Because the grammar as it's here is the way you answer with your hometown. Okay? If you want to answer with your country, then we have to rephrase it. And let's keep things very simple. You say the place where you come from, the city. Eu sou de São Paulo. So I come from São Paulo. I am from the big city. Okay? And you may also ask, você é daqui? Are you from here? Do you come from this place? And if you're being formal, you change it a little bit. O senhor, a senhora é daqui? Are you from here? And the reaction, não sou daqui. If you are saying, no, I am not from here. But if you are from here, you say, sou daqui. Just like this. And you may also want to ask, onde você mora? Where do you live? So the question is here informal, você. If you want to change it to, well, keep a social distancing, you ask, onde o senhor, a senhora mora? So we're asking about the place of residence. Morar, to live. So you answer, eu moro em, and then the name of the city that you live in. Eu moro em, and then wherever you live. For example, eu moro em Cuiabá. It's a city in Brazil, for instance. And you can ask, você mora aqui? Do you live here? O senhor, a senhora mora aqui? Do you live here? But using this form of address that is formal in Brazil. And the reaction is, eu não moro aqui. I do not live here. Or, I do live here. Eu moro aqui. Alright? And you may also answer, eu estou aqui de férias. The meaning is, I am here on vacation. You can ask, quantos anos você tem? This is the question, how old are you? And the alternative is, quantos anos o senhor, a senhora tem? So here is the formal o senhor, a senhora. And in Portuguese, we do not ask how old are you, but we ask literally how many years do you have? Okay, this is the way we think. In English, you wouldn't phrase it this way, but in Portuguese, this is what we are literally saying. Quantos anos você tem? How old are you? And, well, it's not a very nice question to ask a woman, okay? Women, they tend to, well, keep their age a secret, so it's better not to ask a woman how old she is, okay? But you may need to ask that. So the answer will be, eu tenho 35 anos. I am 35 years old, okay? So you just answer this way, eu tenho, I have, and then my age, 35 anos. In English, you would say, I am 35 years old, but in Portuguese, we phrase it differently. Eu tenho 35 anos. And also with questions, we can ask, o que você faz profissionalmente? O que você faz, it's sufficient. What do you do? And if you think you're not being clear enough, what do you do for a living, you may add profissionalmente. So here it's clear. O que você faz profissionalmente? What do you do professionally? What's your job? What do you do for a living? And you may also want to ask, o que o senhor, a senhora faz profissionalmente? It's the same thing, but using o senhor, a senhora, which are formal forms of address. And the answer may be the thing that we're going to see next, but you may also ask the person, você gosta do seu trabalho? Do you like your job? It's a very polite way of trying to, well, get some information of the person. Você gosta do seu trabalho? Okay. And you can also ask, você estuda ou trabalha? Do you study or are you working? Você estuda ou trabalha? And if you do want to say what your job is, you say, eu sou, and then the profession. Eu sou professora. I am a teacher. And you can also say, agora eu não estou trabalhando. I am not working right now. You do not have to explain why. Agora eu não estou trabalhando. I am not working at the moment. And you may also want to ask the person, well, the telephone number. Você pode me dar o seu número de telefone? Can you give me your phone number? And if the person wants to give you this information, you can say, meu telefone é 01, my telephone number is 01, and so on. Okay? Here are all the phrases for you, and we'll keep on learning how to chat in Portuguese. And now we're going to get to know the person better. So, bater papo is a way of saying in Brazil to chat, to make some chit chat. So you can break the ice by saying está calor, né? Well, what you're saying, it's hot today. Today it's not said, but it's in the phrase, included. And you're finishing this phrase with ne. Ne is like, isn't it? Okay, it's hot today, isn't it? So you're opening the channel for the communication. You're asking the person if the person agrees with you. Está calor, né? And with this simple phrase, you start a conversation. I know it's very cliché, but this is the way sometimes we need to start a conversation. We can't be very, very creative, okay? If you are trying to, fill the silence, you, may not ask the person what's the opinion about current affairs. It's not a very good topic to start a conversation. You may ask that later. But to break the silence, you just ask, está calor, né? And the person will agree or disagree, but you have a conversation on the move, okay? And then you also may want to say the opposite. Está frio, né? The same thing. It's cold today, isn't it? And this way you start chatting with anyone, okay? You also may want to complain about the traffic. Que trânsito horrível, né? So complaining also is a good way of bonding with someone. So if you have the same problems, we can talk about the common problems with another person. And the traffic is a big problem in big cities. So you can say, what a horrible traffic today, wasn't it? Okay, so this né is a great way of engaging the other person in your conversation. You're asking the opinion of this other person. Tiny word with a lot of content. Né? Isn't it? And then you can say, você soube das notícias? Have you heard the news? What news? Well, then you have to improvise. But I'm giving you the tools so you can start, having a conversation with anyone about any topic that you want. And you can also ask, você quer dançar? Of course, you ask that at a party, not at the supermarket, but you ask, você quer dançar? Do you want to dance? So the person may say yes. And you can, be very direct by asking a man, você está solteiro? Or a woman, você está solteira? Solteiro, solteira is, single, not married. And also single, not in a relationship. You can say está or é with single in Portuguese. Okay? Você está solteiro, você está solteira. And, this is a very polite way of, trying to figure out if you can make a move on this person or not. Okay? And, some people ask that, how do you ask for a lighter in Brazilian Portuguese? And you would say, você tem fogo. But even though the person could understand that you're asking for a lighter, people do not smoke very often anymore. And also, it can be interpreted literally as, do you have a fire? So, are you a fiery person? It can be interpreted this way. So, even though you can say that, you shouldn't, because it can be a little confusing for the other person. So, you can ask, but better do not ask that. You can ask, você tem horas instead. Because when you ask, você tem horas, you're asking, what time is it? Actually, what you're saying literally in Portuguese is, do you have hours? So, do you have a watch? Can you tell me what time is it? Okay? But this is better to, break the ice with a total stranger. Você tem horas? What time is it? And you may also want to invite the person to have a cup of coffee. So you ask, você gostaria de tomar café? And what you're asking here, would you like to have some coffee? That's right. All that's here is literal. But it may be interpreted as a way of, well, trying to ask for a person to go out with you to have a coffee and talk. Okay, so it depends on what your intentions are. But of course, to have a coffee is a way of asking someone on a date, not a date, but well, a small private conversation. And you may want to say yes, and you just say sim. But if you want to say no, you can say no. But it's very rude to say no when someone is inviting you to do something. We do not say no, and that's it. In Brazil, it's considered very rude. Even if you want to be rude, you can't. So we feel the obligation of, well, saying no, I'm sorry. So you say in Portuguese, não, sinto muito. Okay? And even if you're not sorry, you are saying that you're sorry and you're rejecting this invitation to dance or to have a coffee or whatever. Não, sinto muito. No, I'm very sorry, but nope. And you can also say, não estou com vontade de conversar. If you say, não estou com vontade de conversar, you're saying, I am not in the mood for talking. I do not want to chat with you, so leave me alone. You're not being rude. You're saying that you do not want to talk. And your tone of voice will reveal if you're annoyed or not. Okay? And you can also say, não me incomode. And, well, here you're saying, do not bother me, so leave me alone. You can say that it's a little rude, but maybe the person is being annoying, so you may want to say, não me incomode, and the person will back off. You may also want to say, não falo português. So, não falo português, I do not speak Portuguese. You have a whole video telling you how to, well, solve communication problems in Portuguese. You find it in the video description. But if you say to someone, não falo português, and you're a foreigner, well, the person will understand that you do not want to talk to you. So, não falo português is a way of also saying back off. And, well, it works, okay? Não falo português, and then, well, you just will be left alone. And you can say, não tenho tempo. Não tenho tempo is, I do not have time. And this is the perfect excuse for anything. So if you do not want to do something, you just say, não tenho tempo. And people will understand it. Não tenho tempo. You can add, I am very sorry, sinto muito, if you want to be more polite. But não tenho tempo is sufficient. I do not have time. And if someone is bothering you on the street and asking for money, you may say, não tenho dinheiro. And, well, that's very clear. I do not have money. Here are the phrases for you. And, well, let's be a little more personal. So now you're going to learn how to ask personal questions. And because we are asking personal questions, we are using você as the form of address. Okay? We are already, well, in a first name basis, so to say. So you may want to ask the person, você tem filhos? So, do you have children? And you can answer, não, não tenho filhos. No, I do not have children if you don't have them. Okay? You can repeat filhos, but you do not have to. No, I don't. Não, não tenho. And you may also want to say, sim, tenho filho. Yes, I have a son. And sim, tenho uma filha. Yes, I have a daughter. You may also want to ask, quando é o seu aniversário? When is your birthday? And the person will answer, o meu aniversário é no dia 10 de dezembro, for example. Okay, when is my birthday? You, well, can answer this. It's not a very personal question. It's very general. And in Brazil, people are very spiritual generally, okay? Some people are religious and some people are very spiritual. So many people in Brazil do believe in the zodiac, astrology, and this kind of things. So it's very common to ask a person that you barely know, qual é o seu signo? What is your astrological sign? Okay, and this is a great way of trying to get to know a person better, because it gives you the excuse to, well, try to get some information of this person about, well, how is this person like. Okay, so don't find it strange if a Brazilian asks you, qual é o seu signo? You just answer, eu sou, and then your sign. Eu sou Sagitário. I am a Sagittarius. Okay, so it's a very common question in Brazil, and it may not be in your country, but in Brazil, many people do believe in that kind of things. And, well, you can also try to engage the person in a conversation by saying, ouvi dizer que você gosta de. Then what we are saying is, I heard that you like, and then you say the topic. This is a great way of, well, trying to keep the person interested in a conversation, because you're talking about something the person likes. So you're already, well, in advantage, because you know something about the person and you just let the person talk about it. Okay, so for instance, you heard that the person likes beer. So you say, ouvi dizer que você gosta de cerveja. And the person will start going on and on about beer. Okay? And you can also ask, que línguas você fala? What languages do you speak? And this is also a great way of making conversation, because, well, the person will say why, and if the person already has traveled to other countries, so it's a great way of starting a conversation with a Brazilian. And you may also ask, você tem passatempos? Do you have hobbies? And the person will react by saying, sim, eu gosto de, because everybody has hobbies, all right? So the person will not answer, no, I do not have hobbies. Everybody has at least one, okay? So you answer, sim, eu gosto de. And instead of the letter X, of course, you'll answer whatever you like to do. Sim, eu gosto de dançar. Yes, I like to dance. And with that, you are giving a lot of information and, well, starting a conversation. And you may also want to say, no meu tempo livre, in my spare time, and then you have to use a little grammar. So you're going to say what you do using the present tense. Instead of saying dançar, to dance, you say I dance. In my spare time, I dance. So in Portuguese, it will be no meu tempo livre, danço. Okay? But if you do not want to manage this kind of grammar right now, you just use what you saw here. Eu gosto de, and then, well, the verb in infinitive. I like to dance. Eu gosto de dançar. And, well, you may also ask, você gosta de esportes? Do you like sports? And, well, people will ask this question and the answer will be yes or no. Sim, não. Sim, futebol. And then you can start a conversation about soccer. Você gosta de ir para a balada? And this is how you ask if the person likes to party. Você gosta de ir para a balada? Sim, não. And você gosta de viajar? Do you like traveling? Great topic. Almost everyone enjoys, well, going on vacation. So you can start a conversation this way. Or even, onde você passou suas últimas férias? And the question here is, where did you spend your last holiday? And you say, estive em. Estive em Nova York. I was in New York, for instance. Okay? And you also may want to ask, você quer fazer alguma coisa no fim de semana? And then you're asking, do you want to do something on the weekend? Of course, when I ask that, I am asking if you want to do something with me. It's already in the sentence. It's not stated, but it's included, okay? And this is an invitation to, well, get together on the weekend. And you also may ask, você tem planos para o fim de semana? Do you have weekend plans? And this way, it's more general. It can be interpreted as an invitation to do something together, but maybe you're just asking the person if the person, well, has something planned, okay? And you may answer, sim, estou ocupado. If you are a man and you are busy, you say, yes, I am busy. Sim, estou ocupado. If you are a woman, you say, yes, I am busy by saying, sim, estou ocupada. And you can say, ainda não tenho planos. I still have no plans. And you may also want to ask what the person did last weekend. O que você fez no fim de semana passado? And we are talking about the past, so we may need some grammar to talk about it, right? So you can say, eu saí com amigos. I went out with friends. Or, eu fiquei em casa. I stayed home. Whatever you say, you use the past tense. And you may also want to ask, você tem pet? Pet, in Portuguese, we say pet. Okay, so do you have, well, a dog or a cat or whatever? Okay, você tem pet? And people that do have pets, they normally talk about their pets. So it's a great way of engaging the person in your conversation. So the reaction may be, sim, eu tenho cachorro. Yes, I have a dog. Or, sim, eu tenho gato. Yes, I have a cat. And you can ask, você toca instrumento? And you see here that instrumento is an instrument and the verb is tocar. To play an instrument, tocar instrumento in Portuguese. You have the verb to play only if you're really playing something like a game or a sport. But if you say that you play an instrument in Portuguese, you say tocar instrumento. Tocar generally has the meaning of touching something. But when you play an instrument in Portuguese, you say tocar instrumento. And the reaction can be não or sim, eu toco a guitarra. So I play the electric guitar. Because, pay attention, in Portuguese you have guitarra, which is the guitar, the electric one, and violão, that is the acoustic guitar. Sim, eu toco violão. Yes, I play the acoustic guitar. And you also can say, eu gosto de. And you say what you like. Eu gosto de cerveja. I like beer. E você? How about you? And this is a great way of, well, getting the person involved in what you're saying, because everybody has an opinion about anything, all right? So I may like beer, you may not, so, well, we can talk about other things that we may have in common. Okay, so this is a great way of, well, trying to get the person in the topic that you're interested in. And you may also want to say, eu não gosto de cerveja. E você? So if you well, have something in common that you don't like, well, there might be a friendship there, okay? Because hate, well, may get people together. It's a great bonding factor, okay? Things that you hate together, you may want to talk about them if you want. And you also can ask, você gosta de ler? Do you like reading? Or even, você gosta de escutar música? Do you like listening to music? Você gosta de ir ao cinema? Do you like going to the movies? Você gosta de assistir séries? Do you like watching, well, TV shows? And these are questions that everyone will engage with because everybody listens to music, watches TV, and so on. So it's very difficult that you don't have a conversation with someone about these topics, okay? They are not polemical, and well, you can have a long conversation about your likes and dislikes. And what's a very good topic is food. So you ask, o que você gosta de comer? What do you like to eat? Or even, o que você não gosta de comer? What do you do not like to eat? Okay, because everybody eats and we all have preferences. So if you want to talk to a Brazilian about a topic and you will be sure that the person has an opinion, is food. So it's a very safe topic to try to get someone to talk about their life. Okay, so here you have all these expressions that we have already seen, and let's talk to complete strangers. How do you, start talking with a person that you never saw in your life? Let's have some ideas here. Well, you can ask, tem bom restaurante aqui perto? So if you're a tourist, you're visiting a city and you do want to know how can you get a good meal around here, you ask, tem bom restaurante aqui perto? And you can just talk to any person on the street and ask that. Okay, why? Because people, when they are from somewhere, they like to help foreigners. Okay, normally in Brazil it's so if you see a tourist, you have the tendency of helping this person because you want the person to feel welcome in your hometown, and people like to show their expertise on the topic food, for instance. So if you ask a total stranger in Brazil, tem bom restaurante aqui perto? You may be almost sure that you're going to get a good response from the person. You will find a good place to eat, and you may even start talking to this person about other topics because the person will be able to help you, give you insider tips, what to see, what to do in the city. So you can ask a total stranger in Brazil this kind of questions. Okay, not everybody will respond the same way, but normally people are very friendly when talking to foreigners in Brazil. And you may also want to ask, onde dá para comer bem por aqui? And here you're asking, where can you have a good meal around here? Also a great way of talking to a stranger. And you may also ask, que comida é típica daqui? Also, what kind of food is, the specialty of this region? And another way of talking to strangers is asking about what you have around you. So, for instance, you can ask for directions. Como eu posso ir para o centro? For example, how can I go to the center? And people will normally be helpful and friendly to you. If they see you're a stranger, a foreigner, and people want to help out. So, como eu posso ir para, and then you name the place that you want to go to. Okay? Also possible is to be on a bus stop and ask, o ônibus, and say 5, number 5, passa por aqui. Okay, so you're asking if the bus, goes through this bus stop. And then you have, at least something to talk about with a complete stranger. And people will normally be willing to help you out. And you may also want to pay a compliment to a complete stranger. You may say, que bonito o seu, or que bonita a sua. For instance, suppose you're a woman and you see another woman with a nice blouse. So you say, que bonita a sua blusa, because blouse is feminine, a sua blusa. And even if in your country this may be very strange, in Brazil you may want to just say that to a complete stranger, okay? You may want to pay a compliment about something that the person is wearing, because, people will not find it strange, okay? Because Brazilians, they are very talkative, and they are going to use any opportunity, well, to start chatting with another person. So if you pay a compliment on something that the person is wearing, it's possible that this person is willing to engage in a conversation with you. So you can say que bonito, que bonita, and then the thing that the person is wearing. And also you can say adoro o seu if you are saying that you love something that the person is wearing, masculine, or adoro a sua, for instance, adoro a sua blusa, which is feminine. Adoro, I like it, I love it. Okay? And, well, with these phrases, you, well, break the ice with any stranger anywhere, okay? Be sure of that. And also take the chance, if you're traveling to Brazil, talk to complete strangers, because what do you have to lose? You just have the chance to practice your Portuguese with people that you may never see again. So you don't have to worry about speaking perfect Portuguese, because people in Brazil, they normally are very patient with foreigners, okay? Well, and to finish this guide on small talk in Portuguese, let's learn some filler words in Brazil, because, well, we do use them very often when we are talking to someone. So you may say, é is a way of, well, showing interest to whatever the person is saying. Oh, is that right? But you're agreeing with what the person is saying, okay? É? Okay, interesting. You may also ask, sério? Really? Sério? É, né? This is also a way to agree. É, né? It is true, isn't it? É, né? This is a way of phrasing it in Portuguese in Brazil. Puxa. Puxa is what you say when you are expressing surprise. Positive, negative surprise, it doesn't matter. Puxa. And pois é, if you agree. Pois é, yes, indeed. You may also want to say nossa. Nossa is like puxa. Okay, wow. You're expressing surprise. And you have many other filler words, but I only want you to know right now the basics and the most common ones. And if you want to say cool in Brazilian Portuguese, you may say legal or even bacana. Both expressions are informal because, well, cool is also informal. So to say something is nice, is interesting, is beautiful, you say legal or bacana in Brazil. And you may also want to say que bonito, que bonita when paying a compliment. How beautiful, whatever the thing is, okay? And also, if you find something cute, sweet, and, well, beautiful, you say que fofo, que fofa. For instance, if you see someone walking a dog on the street, you just say que fofo, how cute, and the person, well, probably will engage with you in a conversation. You just, well, pay a compliment to someone, and it's very probable that you have a conversation with this person, okay? Well, after this, we are done, and you have the activities and the material that you can download. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sure that you learned a lot. If you like the video, just like it. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can, and you'll get more videos on Brazilian Portuguese. And I thank you that you were here until the end. Thank you for your patience, and I hope you have a chance to chat a lot in Brazilian Portuguese. Obrigada e tchau! Hi there, I just wanted to thank you for watching this video and to ask for a favor, because if you like this content, please like it, share it, and write a comment, because when you do that, YouTube understands that this content is relevant, and YouTube will show it to more people who want to learn languages. This way, you help other people find me, and you also help me because I can afford to keep on creating free YouTube videos. So thank you for your support, and I wish you a lot of fun and success learning a new language.